안녕하세요. 저는 지가랍니다. 내가 틱톡 좋아요. 틱톡 좋아요. 안녕하세요. 저는 인천사에 있는 대학원생 샤키르입니다. 성명서 실수를 한 적이 있다면 손을 들어주세요. 저도 있습니다. 솔직히 말해서 저는 실수하는 것을 무서워합니다.
What's up, you guys? I am back at it again, and today I have a video for you guys, something that you guys have been wondering about forever. You guys always ask me, Kara, how did you learn Korean? And today I'm going to show you just how I did that in under 2 months. So, before we get started, this video has been brought to you guys by our very wonderful sponsor, Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone has been an essential part of my journey of language learning, especially when I was a small fry, a very small language fry, and I didn't know how to build a language reservoir. Rosetta Stone was there to help me build the vocabulary that I needed to excel in Korean. And what's so amazing about Rosetta Stone is that they do not just give you the vocabulary and tell you to memorize it. They use a very intricate method that helps you remember each of the vocabulary words along with pictures, which helps you imagine the word instead of translating the word.
For example,
저는 영어를 해요.
저는 영어를 해요.
저는 영어를 해요.
저는 한국어를 해요.
저는 한국어를 해요.
저는 한국어를 해요.
중국어를 하세요? 아니요. 저는 중국어를 못해요.
A very huge part in language learning because you never want to always translate in your head. This makes language learning much more efficient. Now I'm watching K-dramas without subtitles and I can understand the K-pop songs that I used to listen to. Like, who was ever going to tell me the real meaning of what Teen Top meant when they said, Nuna, don't wear perfume? If you want to get like me and work on your level language capabilities so you can level way, then you can find a link in the description box below with Rosetta Stone for a limited time offer with a discount from $2.99 to $179 for a lifetime offer. Thank you, Rosetta Stone. And now let's get to the magic of how I learned Korean in 2 months from beginner to intermediate. So, number 1, you want to make sure that you sign up for some type of intensive Korean course. That can be either the Critical Language Scholarship Program or any online Korean program that you find. When you are starting out on a new language, you need to have structure because without structure, you're going to fall. And you don't want to risk any falls, especially when you're on a new language journey. And this can be a very new thing for you. So you want to make sure you have some type of structure. And if you want to do that in Korea, there's many free options for you guys. Go ahead and click the video up here for how you can study in Korea for free. But if you do not have the means to go abroad, that is completely fine. There are many online options for you guys to choose from that are completely free. And you guys can always Google free Korean classes. Look, when I tell you they are out the wazoo, they are out the wazoo. So utilize those resources for you because they're free. And what I always say is if it's not free, it's not for me. So you want to make sure that you sign up for some type of course because you need to have structure. So for me, my structure was signing up for the Critical Language Scholarship Program. And this program was an intense 2-month language learning program. Normally, people just move up from low beginner to high beginner, but if you structure everything correctly and you use some of my tips, I guarantee you'll be able to get to intermediate. 2, vocabulary. So vocabulary is important for a baby's language learner because without your vocabulary, you can't speak. So you want to make sure you find some way that you're constantly getting new vocabulary daily. With Rosetta Stone, you're actually able to get vocabulary on a daily basis. And I love the way that Rosetta Stone sets it up because it uses pictures. That way you internalize the word rather than trying to translate the word. And translating in your mind, I promise you, it takes so much more time. Then when you start to internalize the language, you can actually speak and think in that language rather than having to translate all the words that you're thinking about. So finding a very comfortable way for you to do vocabulary is essential. For me, that was Rosetta Stone. And sometimes you can also get flashcards, write the word on it, and then you can draw or put a picture of that word on the back. So that way, when you are on the go, you could take your flashcards, and when you have time, bring them out, and you can be like, oh, apple. Oh, that's sagwa. Oh, okay. Or if you're reading the word on the back, if you see something like, oh, buntu. Oh, buntu. What is that? You look on the back, you see the picture, oh, bag. So it helps you internalize the word more. 3, so you would need at least 4 hours of instruction in Korean every single day. So I had about 4 hours of instruction with an additional 2 hours of culture classes that were all in Korean. So altogether about 6 hours, but I would say 4 hours is a good bet. In those 4 hours, you want to make sure that you utilize your time correctly and get through some of that grammar that maybe is just not hitting. 4, you will need to immerse yourself in the language. Like I did myself, I lived with the Korean homestay family. I had a language partner. I was literally surrounded by Korean. And I promise you, it's not the fact that my program told me that if I didn't speak Korean 24/7, I would be sent back home. That wasn't the issue, but it was the issue. So I was constantly surrounded by Korean 24/7. So when you want to level up, you want to immerse yourself in the language. And if you can, if you have the resources, definitely plan a trip to Korea for like a month or 2 if you're feeling spicy. Instead of living at an Airbnb during your time here, choose to live with a homestay, because I promise you, it will be an amazing time. I love my homestay family. When you find the right homestay for you, I guarantee you cannot go wrong with increasing your level language capabilities, because there's always going to be something new that you want to talk with your language family. Like I remember one time I was teaching my younger host sister about like Black culture and everything, and I didn't really have the vocabulary for it, but I made sure during my free time I was looking for those vocabulary words that can help me describe what I wanted to tell her. So host family, amazing. But if you can't do a host family, I recommend possibly trying to find a language partner. There's so many ways for you to find a language partner online, especially like pen pals. I heard like Hello Talk. Please be careful with apps. But you can definitely find language partners any and everywhere throughout Korea, because there's always people who want to get to know foreigners more. And also there is a cafe here in Korea called Kalkum, where you can go and meet people here who want to do language exchange. And it's like a back and forth, which is pretty cool. Love Kalkum. Please go if you ever have the chance. It's completely free and they are pretty amazing, cool people. Another way to immerse yourself in the language is traveling to a different place. Places that don't have any type of English. Like Seoul has a whole bunch of English, but you won't find a lot of English or English speaking people in places like the countryside, like Gyeongju, Sejong, Chungcheongnam-do. That's a whole province, not a city, but you get my drift. You want to go to places that don't really speak or don't have a lot of exposures to foreigners, because that is going to be the place where you produce the most Korean, because you're forced to speak it. So you want to go to places that maybe you might feel uncomfortable, but the best, awesomest thing about learning a language is getting outside of your comfort zone. So go to those places. Go have fun with language learning. If you're in the United States, the US of A, sometimes there's not a lot of places where you can speak Korean, right? But if you have a certain neighborhood, maybe like Koreatown, feel free to go there, you know, speak with some of the locals, but please don't be creepy. Next thing, you have to get a private tutor if your language partner is not working out. Because I promise, sometimes it doesn't work out, and that's okay. So I recommend to find someone who can help you reinforce the structure that you have with your classes. If you have time, sometimes you're not gonna have time, but again, learning Korean in 2 months from a beginner to intermediate level is not something that you can do overnight. It's going to take time, work, and dedication. You don't have to meet your tutor all the time. It can be like once a week for like 30 minutes or an hour, completely up to you. Just find somewhere to fit it into your schedule. Because something that's different with a language partner than a private tutor is that a private tutor can help you fix your pronunciation mistakes or possibly your writing mistakes in addition to just having that conversation with you that you need. So sometimes a private tutor can also be better than having a language partner. So my next thing, the one that you guys all love, I know you're gonna love it. Consume entertainment. Consume it like your life depends on it. Live it, breathe it, eat it, need it. You want to consume the entertainment just like you consume your home country's entertainment. So what I mean by that is if you're getting into K-dramas or if you're getting into Korean movies or if you like K-pop, I always recommend that if you're watching the show, watch it without subtitles at least once or twice. And then the third time you go back to that entertainment form that you love, listen to it with the subtitles. Sometimes you'll be surprised about how much you know exactly. So fun story. I used to be super into K-pop music, loved it, but I didn't understand a thing. And one of my favorite songs were Shiny Hello. And there was a specific line that said Uri Duri. And I'm like, Uri Duri, Uri Duri. And I never knew what it meant. And then I found out Uri Duri actually means us too. And I found that out first after listening to the song without the lyrics. And then I kind of internalized that phrase after I listened to the song with the subtitles. So it's really cool how the memory works because then you can realize and remember really key things, especially things that maybe you didn't remember before, because I'm always finding new things in songs that I used to listen to that I didn't know before. Or when I go back and watch K-dramas that I love, like, can I get a round of applause for Boys Over Flower? Can I get a like for The Coffee Prince? All of those really old movies, when I go back and watch them now, I realize that sometimes the subtitles really don't do justice. And you can really learn a lot by watching it without subtitles and then going back and watching it with subtitles, especially as you advance in your language learning capabilities. It is amazing, especially like, what if one day you want to watch a K-drama and it doesn't have the subtitles out? The Viki uploaders are slow today. It gives you the opportunity to, just watch the drama comfortably. Subtitles, who need them? You. You don't need them. You. The next thing that helped me reach a higher level of Korean is I was tested literally every single week. I was constantly being tested for improvement and how I can improve in certain areas. And because I was tested every week, I could see where I went wrong and how I can fix that in the future. And thankfully, when I did have those parts where I was being corrected, it was with my teachers at the time. So if you can, test yourself every week just to see your level. Sometimes you might not want to do it overboard, so maybe you want to do it once every 2 weeks in the span of 2 months, but because this is intense and we want to level way, you will want to test yourself at least once every week because you want to gauge where you are now and where you need to improve to be better in the future. And if you can do that with a teacher or even a private tutor, that would be amazing. Next thing, the easiest part, speak 24/7. As someone who still struggle with speaking is one of the most difficult parts in language. And sometimes it's not because you don't understand or it's because you don't know how to write. A lot of the times it's understanding nuances or the different ways that people speak. Like one thing I love about Korea is that people who live in Busan sound completely different than the people in Seoul. So sometimes it can be difficult to communicate with people in different areas. So you want to expose yourself to those different dialects. And the best way to do that, speak 24/7. Get to know people from those different places. Expose yourself to those dialects. And you're wondering, like, how can I speak 24/7? I got you, girly. So if you don't have a language partner, and if you don't have a teacher, and if you don't have a private tutor, for my anxiety-ridden girls, there's always talking back to the computer screen when you're watching a drama. You know, when somebody's like, oh, Tim, yeah! You can be like, I knew! You know, you gotta come in with the quick ad-libs. Or even, I know the app Hello Talk, you can use the voice part of the application, send in your voice notes, and sometimes people will correct those for you. So that's pretty cool. And of course, the important part, the structure. So each day while you're learning Korean, you should have at least learned 2 to 3 new grammar points. And you should learn at least 4 to 5 new words. And you want to try your best to implement those new words into your daily lifestyle. Sometimes that may be writing on a sticky note and placing it on the item. Or maybe that's like writing in a journal about your thoughts, what you're doing, how you're feeling, what you're gonna be. Hey, turn up. I should be stopped. And overall, if you don't remember all of these grammar points or these words every single day, that is completely okay, because what you're doing is working on your recognition and your understanding. And if you don't remember it in the future, if you see that word, you'll be able to understand or recognize that it means something, or get a good idea of what you think it should mean. So it's okay if you don't understand or you don't remember everything. That's okay. It's a part of language learning. You're not a robot. You're not Alexa. You can't remember everything. You're not Miss Google. So it's okay. Because again, as time goes on, you're adding on and you're building onto your vocabulary, which is again, something that I enjoy about Rosetta Stone and how they are able to feed vocabulary to language learners. And of course, last but the most important, find your motivation. Why are you learning Korean? Is it because you want to have that conversation with Namjin when you finally meet? Or is it because you want to understand Lee Jong-suk when he's on the screen playing that amazing drama? Why are you learning Korean? Find your motivation, because your motivation is going to keep you elevated and keep you running throughout your language learning journey. Honestly, Korean is not always going to be fun and exciting to learn. Sometimes it's doing the boring things like reading a newspaper and translating the words out of there, or even doing your best to read a book. Read a book out loud! That's actually another one, reading a book out loud, because that helps you with pronunciation. Language learning isn't always going to be fun, and that is okay. You are not a robot. You're a person with emotions. And language learning is not a ooh. Sometimes it's like a me. It's meant to be a journey for a reason. It's not always going to be highs, and that is completely okay. Because at the end of the day, you still slay! I hope you guys enjoyed learning about some of these tips that I used to help me learn Korean in the past months, and how I became a whole butterfly. A butterfly that still needs a long way to go and a long way to fly, but nonetheless, a butterfly. But until next time, I will see you guys later, and I cannot wait to see you guys blossom and bloom with your language learning journey. But until then, I will see you guys next time.